Devils. Demons, infernals, hellions, El Diablo, or whatever you want to call them, are some of the most interesting adversaries for me. So, why do we always seem to miss the mark in our games? Well, today, I'm going to go over how to make devils that feel sometimes hateable, but very much oftentimes, well, devilish beings. The first thing I want to address is, what do I mean when I say devils? Do you instantly think of the devils from D&D, guys with pages of law explaining exactly why they can only bring about their evils within the clauses of a contract? Because if you're devoted to D&D and its lore, then this video is probably going to want to make you scream, but you know, stick around till the end. But if you run other games, be they fantasy or not, or you run D&D without 100% adherence to the law, then also watch on. First of all, I'm going to split this topic into two main parts and then combine them at the end with some tips and ideas. So, first topic. Contracts don't work. In games, not necessarily other forms of media, thank you. To clarify, contracts have a very specific function. They make devils just like every other arcane subject in D&D. Formulaic. Contracts only work to deceive your player characters into accepting a deceptive deal if your player considers the story more important than their character's self-preservation enough to take the obvious bait. Devilish contracts are a literal red flag that signals if you sign a contract written by Satan, then of course it's gonna go badly for you. Contracts might feel on brand for devils, but contracts, in reality, are very strange things. Contracts are used in the real world to display agreement and trust between two parties, and they display an inherent mistrust between those same two parties. Because to go back to our devilish gift and contract scenario, why can't I just have the gift? Why do I need to sign that contract? Why don't you trust me? What, you think I'm gonna stab you in the back, run off with your gift and disrespect our agreement? Out of the two of us, I'm not the devil. Is your consequence-free giving of power or some item that important to you? And if it is, do you think that I, for a second, believe that if I try to mess with you, that I'm not gonna get severely punished for it? If you offer a contract to a D&D player, unless they are severely misinformed about D&D and of, you know, the beings that depict evil across all countries and cultures, you should do so with the knowledge that they are going to refuse. But this isn't just a D&D specific thing. You don't have to know about the law of devils to feel wary of contracts. If you present a contract to a D&D player and you don't hand the contract physically to them to read, which would be wild DMing, I know because I've done it, then they're just gonna ask, can I sit and read and make an investigation check to check for any malicious clauses? A contract is an intimidating thing to even the most experienced businessmen because they're binding and you're supposed to uphold an obligation. That's why experienced lawyers are hired to look over them and negotiate terms beforehand. So when Satan just shows up and hands you a highly detailed contract, that's not an easy sell. I mean, hell, pun intended, it's an incredibly hard sell. But of course, you might be sitting there watching this thinking that I'm talking bullshit because you've made contracts work in the past. Well, maybe you have, and I'm not going to sit here disputing your success. You made contracts work, good for you, that sounds awesome. But here's another reason why they don't work, as in they don't work narratively. Why is a contract so important? Because it displays a character giving in to temptation and corruption, them disobeying right and order, and embracing evil for their own purposes. Except the narrative impact of that choice does not hit anywhere near as hard if the devil includes a malicious clause. You can't really sit there and be like, your character willingly chose darkness. If they didn't know, what would happen? It depends what you want. Do you want to have player characters willingly give themselves over to sin and evil, or are you just trying to depict devils as evil bullies? Because personally, I find the latter to be pretty meh. It doesn't hit as hard, it's not as effective narratively, but it can work, like in Ghost Rider. Yes, Ghost Rider, the film with Nicolas Cage in it. Mephistopheles presents a contract to Johnny to cure Johnny's father. The contract then cuts Johnny's finger to make Johnny unwillingly sign it with his own blood, only for Johnny's father then to die in a completely different but tragic way. This inciting incident presents Mephistopheles as a horrible being who works in frustrating technicalities. I mean, you technically signed the contract and hey, look, I did save your father from his cancer. I just didn't mention the dying in a fire part. And that's but one problem. Contracts might be thematic for some to use, but they're completely obvious. And 9 times out of 10, they just don't work. Hi, this is Editing Me. You might have got up to this point in the video and thought, why is he going so far to, like, disprove the idea of devils and contracts mixing at all? This part of the video isn't me saying never use contracts. If you can make contracts work, then go for it. All I'm saying is that when it comes to the games and detaching reality and devils in our games, it's much harder to get a contract to work, so therefore there are much more interesting ways to go about it without having to really pigeonhole yourself into trying to make this idea of a contract work, when in reality it's not like devil equals contract 100% of the time, even if D&D has went along with that idea. You can break apart from it and have a lot of fun and be able to let your creativity go wild. That's all I'm trying to say. Now back to the video. Now before I give solutions, I want to quickly cover the other topic that I mentioned that will be then married into the talk of contracts later, and that is the entire look and feel of devils. First of all, if you want to immediately depict your devil as evil and, well, a devil, then make them a big red man with horns, assuming that your players have mental breakdowns over the mere sight of new ideas. But if you want a more interesting devil, then think about what a devil means to you, and it's this that makes them so interesting to me. What does the living embodiment of something that is an affront to righteousness, good and glorious in this world, look like? Instead of having your devils being flaming icons of sin that are pure evil, maybe this embodiment of wrongness is something completely incomprehensible to the humanoid mind, like an eldritch horror. Or, what if you could just walk past them in the street right now and you'll never know? Also, besides just making them, like, look different, if you have a devil appear in a ball of fire, with or without ceremony, it's a bit overdone, isn't it? What if you depicted the presence of a devil in a much more slow and subtle way? What if the heroes are hired to figure out why in this village people are waking up in the middle of the night to strangle their loved ones? The heroes could find the remnants of corpses exsanguinated, or people find with their eyes left as bloody ruins. Then you put together the pieces. A survivor telling the players that their husband was saying, "I'm sorry, this is for Abigail," while trying to kill her. You realise the corpses weren't sucked dry by a vampire or a beast, but with tools, and the eye wounds were done by the victim. And this all culminates with you descending into a profane lair where metal rusts, blood freezes, the faithful hear whispers, and the unfaithful hear screams. Then you stand before the visage of a being that only looks vaguely like a person, from the piercing eyes and sickening smile. Truly sickening to behold in a way that you, as the GM creating this devil, feel most disgusted by. Their lair, what they do, how they look, and their followers should build a uniquely vile presentation. Devils are living blasphemy and evil is mostly personal and subjective to humans and built around generally agreed upon moral standards. So, what does that look like and act like to you? So, we've covered why contracts can be lackluster and how a devil's introduction and visage is so important. Now, let's combine these two things as I give you some ideas and hopefully interesting references. My first reference is from the film The Witch. Spoilers for the movie, of course, so definitely give it a watch if you haven't already, and it's there to inspire you, that's why I'm mentioning it here. Ralph Ineson's voice is worth it alone.
How sadly hath the Lord testified against you.
The story shows a family's battle with isolation and religious extremism, but to take the supernatural element seriously, you could make your story about a coven of witches that will wait until someone is alone to do unspeakable things or corrupt them. And all of these witches are beholden to him, the devil himself, or a devil at least. The devil doesn't present himself as a being of menacing proportions and spectacle. In fact, you never really see him. Instead, you get this absolutely chilling scene.
Wouldst thou like the taste of butter?
It's the servants of the devil and the devil's influence that is seen and felt the most, and then that payoff of him just being a shadow and a seductive voice, haunting. And by the way, just a bit of trivia, this is his costume. Look how cool it is, but they just shrouded him in darkness for the movie. Now knowing about this costume, this means that Satan shows himself as a cavalier, which were enemies of the Puritans. So I guess the darkness could be to show that he's a voice in the dark that sounds so alluring, but is literally dressed as your people's enemy as he turns you to his side. He does have another form, which is this goat. Black Phillip. Little cutie. Let's move beyond the witch just for now. My other reference is for a more modern movie. In fact, it came out very recently. Sinners. So, spoilers for that. In fact, you might have already seen the movie, and you're sitting there thinking, devil? You mean the vampire? Well, yes. While the character I'm going to talk about is in fact a vampire, don't let your inspiration stop at just the guys with horns. Think about all the books, movies, and games that you've played that have villainous characters that you can draw inspiration from. Think about the more nuanced ones, the ones that your players might not have seen, and really surprise them with a unique villain inspired by this lesser known villain. If you detach Remick from the brutal historical context and just take his actions as face value, Remick could make for a perfect, charismatic and manipulative villain to use as your devil. He uses the information that you keep secret to anger and guilt you. He lies at first, but uses alluring ideas to manipulate you. But notice how he uses truth to foster relationships. He genuinely doesn't like the KKK and gives information about their evil intentions to help the main characters thwart them to build a bridge between them before using other tactics to bend them to his will. Now, with those two brief mentions, we have Remick and we have Black Phillip from The Witch, I want to highlight what they both do and what you can learn from them to make more nuanced and more potent devils. First of all, appearances. Neither of them show up as horrible and hulking monsters. At first, Black Phillip is dressed in a neat uniform to show authority that you can trust, and as a show of how you could live as neatly as he does, if you do as he says and does. Meanwhile, Remick simply approaches the group in the guise of a man, confronting the group like any other person, like he has nothing to hide, while a darkness lurks within him, which is specifically mentioned by those working on his makeup in the movie. Why not have your devil be just like the player characters? Devils want to corrupt you, and isn't that so much more easy to do when the person doing so is someone that you don't fear? The most significant pat on the back that I can give for D&D is Raphael from Baldur's Gate, because he shows himself as a glamorous person, someone with power, excess, and resources that looks just like you, even if he gives the game away immediately. The next thing is allure and an alluring offer. Devils across the board typically have high charisma, so let them be charismatic. Now, I'm aware that's not something that you can just do. You don't just be charismatic, but hear me out. You don't need to be charismatic to present a devil as charismatic. They're charismatic not because you shove pens and paper in their face to sign like a hellish real estate agent, or you portray them with the charisma of Bruce Campbell mixed with Tim Curry, but because they have an alluring offer. Black Phillip sees the family surviving instead of living and offers to help them live deliciously. Remick sees the state of oppression and offers equality, fellowship, and undying unity. And even Raphael offers to rid you of your affliction as time slowly ticks down. In place of contracts and obvious pitfalls, allow your devils to just pitch the benefits. And if you think that a devil needs a contract, why? You can display your binding in their agreement in other ways, like a brand or the gift that you get from them itself being the sign. Devils are icons of corruption and sin, and you don't sign a contract to sin. You just give into it, naturally. And verbal agreements are much easier to bring about and feel much more natural.
Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
I am your way out.
A magical field.
God damn it! Allow your devils to just speak, and when they bite you, show their coven, make a bet, or accept your terms. You're in. I mean, hell, where are the actual contracts between devil and humans even mentioned in the likes of...
Now you played pretty good fiddle, boy, but give the devil his due. I bet a fiddle of gold against your soul, because I think I'm better than you.
And, who could forget...
What are your terms? What's the catch?
Yes, I'm aware he has a demon code, but that's not between Satan and the boys, so it doesn't count. And lastly, timing, as in when to have your devil reveal their offer. Now, this is something that I can, without qualification, commend Raphael for, because he shows up to offer you a way out when you have very little options to choose from. Who knows how long, or if at all, you will find someone who can help you. And if you do, what will be their price? So, the devil can offer you a definite way out. Black Phillip has essentially been watching the family for the whole movie, waiting until Thomasin is at her worst before tempting her with butter. And Remick goes a step further by actively taking away what choices the characters have, picking off family and friends, and threatening to take more loved ones unless they agree. And even when you do agree, wouldn't it be so much better? Existence without pain, without prejudice. All you're sacrificing is the sun. And soul. So, instead of red men with horns and paperwork, think about devils as physical manifestations of evil and deception. Or, instead of physical manifestations, allow them to be immaterial forces of temptation and evil like Black Phillip, where all you can hope to do is cleanse his corruption from the people around you, rather than defeating him. Because you can't kill the darkness. Instead of making them cosmic godly beings, make them powerful human-like beings that aren't omniscient, but can literally sense your sin. They can read it like words written upon your guilty face, and only those that are truly sinless can escape their tempting ways. I love to make devils beings that just relish in the breaking of your laws and adoption of theirs, where everything from vampires to beings like the Wendigo are just those that have given to the temptation of eternity and hunger. Now you will persist with the power to never be hungry again. Bon appetit. Not eating flesh, murder, family, friendship, wedding vows, all these bonds that you make are those that they gain power from by breaking apart. Have their very visage be something that encapsulates deception, be that of a man or a force that you can't see, and then reveal their vile visage alongside their vile intentions. And never forget, if a devil extends an offer, it's not via cheating magic or enchantment spells that you ponder accepting. It's because they can speak through your deepest and darkest desires. And hopefully that should change devils for you and make your player's next encounter with them end with one or all of them wearing the mark of the beast after being made an offer that they can't refuse. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Also, you might like this video on screen where I help improve the most undersold being in all of 5e, the Aboleth. I love you all, and I'll see you next time.